Hello and welcome to Concert Pipeline. My name is Steve Jones. Today on the program we have a band called Aeon Station, and this is a band that is led by Kevin Whelan, and he, as well as several other members of the band that came over from their previous band, the Wrens, which were formed in 1989, so a good while ago, and it kind of transformed into this band because of the work that had been done towards what would have potentially been a fourth album for the Wrens, but didn't end up coming to fruition. So Aeon Station formed and released this new album that came out last year called The Observatory. Really recommend checking it out. It's good stuff. And Ray from Raby gave me this band and told me a little bit about their story and how great it was. So we had a really great conversation. We're going to get into that in just a little bit. But before I do, let me just share a little bit about my evening yesterday. I went over to my buddy Joe's house in Napa. He was having a friend from out of town, a friend and his long-term girlfriend over. They were hanging out for most of the day, and he said, "Hey, come over in the afternoon. We'll hang out." This friend I've met a couple of times, probably the most recent being at least a decade ago, and so we weren't close, but he knows me through past shows that I've done, namely a show that I'd co-hosted with Joe about 20 years ago, almost, maybe 18, 19 years ago, called Stage Right. So we pull out, Joe wanted me to come over and bring, some of these shows, which I had to find the old hard drive that had them. Luckily, I have them digitally because really I have them in boxes of SVHS tapes, like big boxes of SVHS tapes that I'll never be able to play or anything, but that cart around with me when I move or stay in the garage and just, take up space. But a couple of years back, a former co-host of mine, Jens, had some time away from work, and he had coded all of my old tapes digitally. He's like, "Yeah, I got an SVHS player that will code them." So he was able to code all the tapes digitally, and so I have these files, right? So then I just needed to find the hard drive and make sure it worked and everything, because I don't go back and watch old episodes of mine. But I'll tell you, as you can kind of tell, I've been doing shows for a long time, and producing programs and doing that sort of thing, right? So these are dated and ancient tapes or ancient videos of me and Joe, mostly Joe because I was more behind the camera for the programs, but something that we did together with a buddy of ours at the time, Chris, and so at one point in the evening, I pull out the hard drive, plug it into the computer, and put on some of these programs and just kind of bounce around them a little bit, and we watch and laugh at what kind of, like, I don't know the word to describe it, but really hyperactive would probably be the one that I would use. Hyperactive young guys we were, because Joe was 18 at the time, I was 19 when we were doing this show, and it's just hilarious, how different we were, but to see us really as kids doing these shows and interviewing bands and just being young adults, really, and the funny stuff that we would get up to in those shows. So it was enjoyable. Let me just say that, to kind of go down nostalgia lane a little bit, because really, I talked about it the other day with Joe when we were talking about this dinner coming together. And by the way, he made a fucking good dinner. It was great. It was simple, but it was great. It was pasta, tomatoes, and then there was a bunch of vegetables, broccoli and asparagus, I think, maybe. No, I think they bought asparagus, but they didn't cook it. But there was zucchini, and corn on the cob. It was a great meal. But Joe and I were talking about the show leading up to this dinner, and I told him, I was like, man, that show, which was short-lived. I mean, there were only like 14 episodes. Put into context of this show, which is now on its 376th episode, I believe, at this point, as we continue rolling and pushing towards 400. But there were only like 14 episodes of that show. But it was such a pivotal point in my life, and he agreed for himself and in our friendship that has lasted over 20 years now. Because without that show, we probably wouldn't have been friends or best buddies or anything along those lines. Because I mean, we didn't have as much in common until, you know, he decided to come on the show, and then ultimately ended up hosting. And it really did a lot for me developing my music tastes around that time, because my musical taste before Joe came into the equation was crap. I listened to a lot of garbage, I'll say. And I didn't have any friends to really help give me a foundation for what good music is and what I should be listening to. And so he brought that along, and it was a great moment because I was able to get my friends, interviews with their favorite bands during this time also. So that made me feel really good. So being able to share this, over this dinner with some folks that were aware of the show and had seen the show and clips many years ago, it was just a lot of laughs and good times, and it was a great evening. So I'll leave it at that for that experience. So much fun. All right, so let's get into the interview with Aeon Station here. As I said, I had a chance to talk to Kevin Whelan, and we had a really, really fun chat. And he went down a little bit of nostalgia path of his own during the course of the interview, and got to hear some of the challenges that he faced along the way. So here's my interview with Kevin from Aeon Station. Kevin, how are you doing?
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Where are you located, by the way?
I am in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey.
Oh, okay. How's the weather out in Berkeley today?
It's really nice.
Yeah.
It's really bright, sunny. Just it's a perfect summer day, I have to admit. Where are you?
I am out on the West Coast in the Bay Area.
Oh, wow.
Near Sacramento area. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How's the weather there? Beautiful, right? Always perfect.
Oh, I mean, no complaints. You pay a lot out here for the weather, right? So you get what you pay for.
That's for sure. Oh, that's so nice. And thank you, man. Thank you for doing this. Thanks for taking the time.
Of course. I mean, your story is a great one with, I think, some big chapters in here that we have to cover today. So
that's for sure.
I'm looking forward to digging into it. But you have two sons also, right? Are they enjoying the summer?
I do. They're having a really good time. As a matter of fact, they were just sitting in the room and we kicked them out to go to, go in the other room or go outside and jump on the trampoline. And thank you. I know you have pickup, right? But your wife's doing pickup instead?
My kid's mom, yeah, she was able to get it. It's the co-parenting communication thing. It's like, okay, I get them Wednesday nights, so am I picking them her up from exactly because she's my daughter's a couple minutes away. Oh no, I'll just get, okay, well, you didn't tell me that even after I texted you. So okay. Anyway.
Yes, right. It's always communication, man. That certainly is the key here. But okay, cool. I'm glad it worked out. And again, really, you helping out and kind of, talking about the record and stuff and all of it. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah. So I want to start kind of at the beginning for you though, because I want to know kind of where your musical taste came from. Both your parents were teachers, but you and your brother got into music. Like how did that work out?
Wow. I would say, my parents were, of the 50s, right? So then, but then they kind of lived through the age of hippie, right? Frankly, and all that 60s and stuff like that. And my mom always had a bunch of records at home. And I remember one record in particular that she had that I loved, which was the Mamas and the Papas, right? So, it was one of those kind of like early, that's my parents' record, right? I mean, of course they liked all the doo-wop stuff and all the 50s and all that kind of stuff, but it was certainly that record because it was, they didn't ever have records out, or they weren't like that. They're Irish family, so they're always like singing and dancing and stuff and family stuff. But the record cover was hidden underneath like the weird closet. I remember looking at it, I was like, wow, it's so cool. And listen to like, all those old Mamas and Papa songs, like, wow, it's so good. It was weird. It was like mysterious. But yeah, kind of started from there. And then I didn't have sort of like a breakthrough. And then I had a breakthrough, I think, musically, kind of like really bad music, actually. It was the remake of Sgt. Pepper's with the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton. So I'm really aging myself. That's, I know, right? You're like, wow, I'm sorry. And then the Blues Brothers. So it was all like movie type stuff.
Yeah.
And geez, very quickly. And then I think, of course, it's like a Beatles thing. And my first record I ever bought was, I was in a record store in New Jersey, and they were playing The Hurting by Tears for Fears. That was my first record that I physically paid for. And I thought I was super cool. And then from there, it was endless. It was like, The Clash, the Police, the Who, all this stuff.
Yeah. And so at what point did you and your brother play together when you were kids? Like,
never. No, never. My brother never did any music, actually. He was always really into sports, but he loves music. So he would be in his room and he would listen to ELP. He was definitely a 70s guy, right? Like Led Zeppelin, ELP, Yes, all proggy, Genesis. So I learned all of that from him. And, it wasn't until I became a teenager and was antisocial, or I didn't know how to be social. And I found music, and it kind of helped me be alone, essentially. And I kind of did music for a long time. And it wasn't actually until I was in college that my brother started playing music with me. He started picking up the guitar, and it was a real long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's the age differential between you and your brother?
6.5 years.
Okay. So he's older, right?
Yeah, he's older. Yep.
And so would you say he was kind of an influence for you in any sense?
I would say, yeah, listening to him in his room again, it's like classic 70s stuff with the records, listening to Rush, and, I was listening to Steve Martin, King Tut, right? And he's listening to like, Fly By the Night. I was like, what is that? Or any of them, right? All the weird records. So I would just listen to his music.
Yeah, for sure. And so the Wrens, you kind of you formed the Wrens, and you had met Charles at a house party, is what I understand.
Yeah. When I was I started the band probably like when I was 16, 17. It didn't become the Wrens then, but it was sort of like just figuring it out. There was another drummer, and then we realized we needed another guitar player. And I met Charles through a bunch of friends at a local kind of house party where everyone kind of played and hung out, and then it kind of went from there, right? And then I knew Jerry from high school, because he was in like sort of high school band. So he lived in a whole different town, but connected with him, and then we sort of gelled right away. And I haven't talked about it, but our first gig was a 4th of July kind of party. Yeah, we were horrible. Holy cow, they hated us. We were literally the worst thing you've ever heard on your planet. We were playing in front of a lot of people, like right away. We were
You're like, you get the gig and you're like, this is great, this is amazing. Oh, we're not ready, but it's okay, we're playing music, right?
I think it was sort of like delusional that we thought we were going to be rock stars from like a small town 4th of July party, and we just couldn't be heard, and we didn't. I don't know, man. I'm sure if anyone ever had video of it, it would be like, people would be crying from pain. But anyway.
So you mentioned that it wasn't the Wrens at first. I know there were like a dozen different names that you went through. What were some of those that you remember?
Really, it kind of got in there pretty quick. It was pretty boring, but we really went to like The Voice. Like we were called The Voice. And as the Wrens, right, as the four of us, and we were kind of like, well, that's kind of a cheesy name and not very good. So we changed that, and then it was really just a couple. And then for a hot minute, we were Low, until we realized that there was quite a good band named Low, and we then quickly found the Wrens sitting around in our living room, literally trying to solve it. But it's ancient history, but back then there were no the bands. It was all Low, and it was like Pennywise. It was all like Sunrise. It was just straight up names, and we were like, we knew we wanted to be Beatlesque retro stuff, so we it was very unflattering to be the even when we're on the label, we were Brainiac, we were on like Edsel, we were on with like, you know, it was all like Jawbone. It was all that DC, just one name thing. We're like, well, we're called the Wrens. And like, that's corny. Well, you know, and then it got back into vogue with the Strokes and all that stuff. So it goes.
Sure. And you mentioned the Beatles, like, and I know they were a big influence for you, and you kind of emulated them in a lot of senses, even like having your drummer play, sing
Absolutely.
one song on every album, right? So tell me kind of about that influence.
It really was just an obsession, right? I mean, we were obsessed with the Beatles to be that, you know, the Beatles through the XTC lens, through the Pixies lens, through all that kind of stuff. You know, but it was still always anchored in the Beatles, right? The two singers, the mixed songs, the drummer, the Greg kind of being the George Harrison character, right? It was just, and then we kind of, you know, copied the Monkees, right, by living with each other for all of those years, you know, 15 years, and that was a long time. Well, we needed money essentially. We needed like, you know, just friends paying rent and stuff, and but yeah, the Beatles were an obsession for us. We were always watching them, always listening, trying to emulate, you know, realizing how slow we were compared to them.
Right. Well, you know, you got your place, right? So, but so you talking on the money side, you had to sell your own tickets up front to your shows. You had to buy them and then to be able to sell them and get people there. What was that like?
Years it was pay to play. You know, in New York City, when we started back in the early 90s, there were so many clubs and there were so many shows, but they wanted to hear Limp Bizkit. You know, they did not want to hear us doing weird, you know, punk rock kind of like real strange, you know, songs. So we had to pay almost every club to kind of then fill them and pay them. And you know, we stopped paying the clubs, but we had to kind of always bring people for years and years and years, right? It kind of started to catch on maybe after 10 years, but it was a long time of playing to no one, that's for sure.
Yeah. So at what point did that alleviate for you, where you're like, okay, we don't have to fight so hard for this?
You know, I would say 10 years in, 10, 11 years, it took that long. Yeah, it took a real long time. And then it, you know, I think with Secaucus, we started to get a good following. So people would come and we could kind of somewhat fill rooms. And then with the Meadowlands, it kind of, we were still kind of playing the places we've always played, but now they were packed. So that was the difference. People actually came on their own volition.
Yeah. Yeah. And so tell me kind of about that feeling when you started to build the audience. Like, did you feel like this is this is the right thing, this is working? Like, how did that feel for you?
Oh God, it was profound, because you figure that's 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
And you figure we got together in 1989. So that's a long time. You know, you're now talking about a 14-year wait just to get that where you kind of go. And we were really just kind of selling out places like, you know, Bottom of the Hill. Like we used to play Bottom of the Hill down in San Francisco, or all these kind of weird places in California. We played all these real small places too, when we would go out there and no one would be there, somewhat kind of be there. But we played the Bottom of the Hill. We played the Bottom of the Hill, right? With who did we play with? Who was the bass player from Weezer? He had a band, the Rentals.
Oh gosh, yes, I know who you're talking about. The Rentals. Yes, I know that. I remember the Rentals. Absolutely.
They had that one song. I can't remember his name either, but we played with them at the Bottom of the Hill. And we played, and there was like around nobody there. And then he played and kind of got crowded. But then we played towards the Meadowlands, and we played for, I can't remember, one of the festivals. And it was packed. It was great. Same place, but it just went from being nobody to like very crowded, which was fun.
You do a Warped Tour?
We never did. You know what's so funny? At least from my recollection, we were asked to go to Europe. We were never asked to be an opening band, and we were never asked to do a tour. There was only two small exceptions. Brainiac, who were our friends, wanted us to go to Europe with them. But then we kind of canceled at the last minute because we just didn't have the money, which would have been great because they were really good friends. I don't know if you know them or anything about their history, but they're quite an amazing band as well. And then the only time we were ever asked was by Death Cab for Cutie for Transatlanticism. They asked us to play and to go out on tour with them, and we didn't. And our buddies, the Dismemberment Plan, did. They went in and they kind of, they said, we'll take both you guys or whatever. And honestly, out of a 30-some-year career, no one ever asked us. We never played any tours. It was
So why'd you turn down Death Cab?
I guess it really was money and time, because they wanted a commitment for a real long time, and we just didn't have. Oh, we were just making the choice not to do it. You know what I mean? We just didn't. It was really, that's what we were always about. We kind of balanced those jobs with, music, and it was always this sort of double lifestyle, right? And that's, I think it's part of that. It's part of money. It was part of like not just jumping in head first to kind of go for it, right? And so it didn't. Maybe we should have.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But you did go to
Europe.
Europe.
We met them, and he's
Okay.
such great people, and lots of connections in. That's for sure.
Yeah, and you did go to Europe. Like you would do weekend trips in Europe. Is that right? Like
when we first started in the '90s, we would actually do squatter tours. So we would play like all the punk rock squatter tours that didn't have electricity and we were sleeping on the floors, and that was a lot of fun. We did that a couple times. Totally lost our shirts, but and just played to a lot of people who didn't know our music, but we became friends, and it was great. And then when the Meadowlands kind of came years after it sort of hit here, we would go over to Europe almost for like kind of extended weekends. We did Germany, we would do Ireland, and London. That was kind of it. And Norway, I think that was it. But we would go over on a Thursday night and get back to work by Monday.
It's crazy weekend, right? Like that's a big quick turnaround. But like, how are those audiences different than?
They were kind of well received too. It was really nice. Maybe a little smaller, not really knowing who we were, because you figure we were really indie. We had very little distribution. We were on our buddy Corey's label. So we then worked with two people, Allison and Bernard, who put us on their record label for Europe, and they were wonderful. They actually just recently did the Led Zeppelin documentary, and they also did a documentary a little bit ago about the original phonograph and recording, and they had like Bach and Elton John, and they've gone into some great success, but they were friends that kind of brought us over and did a lot of wonderful things.
Yeah. I want to ask you about
they made the whole Europe thing happen.
They did. Okay.
The Meadowlands did well because of Pitchfork, and and because we would play a lot of colleges and all that stuff, and we did a lot of that touring. But then it kind of died, and it wasn't really until 2006 that Allison and Bernard saw us at the South by Southwest, and they brought us over for Europe.
Okay, I gotcha.
Without them, it would never have happened. Yeah.
Yeah, but what an amazing experience to be able to, play internationally and everything, right? Like
it was crazy. I remember the first night we played, in London off the Meadowlands, and there really wasn't anybody in the audience, but it was so fun and cool, and it was really we had humble aspirations, that's for sure.
Yeah. I want to ask you about Drive Thru because
wow.
so you turned down Drive Thru, right? And was it that it wasn't a good fit? Tell me about that whole thing.
So Drive Thru, I've not yet. I have to reach out to Richard and Stephanie Wrens, who had Drive Thru, right? They had been friends probably from the beginning. Like they were friends with the band. They're originally from New Jersey, and then they moved out to California, and they always sort of liked our weird pop punk. Right.
Yeah.
But then at that time, that sort of other genre, they would come over to the house, they would play sort of like the power pop that was coming in that that they would become known for. And they were even going to put out the Meadowlands. They were the first ones that said, hey, we'll do it. We'll figure it out. It wasn't really a fit for their label, at the time, because, they had a lot of the power pop bands. They would have done it. Great friends. And we did the EP with them, with a couple of the songs that were going to be on the Meadowlands record. But yeah, great people as well.
Yeah, that Drive Thru was like very much of the moment, right? Like, I mean, there were those bands, that Something Corporate, Newfound Glory,
Newfound Glory, that's what I was trying to get. Yeah. But it was a big moment, right? People forget that Blink 182, all that, Green Day. It was a moment that lasted for a number of years, and it was like like you said, the Warped Tour. Like it was big, and it had a lot of influence on teens and 20s. It was a big deal, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and so So then, I mean, we can talk. I want to talk, I guess, before we get to the, some of the other decisions that kind of came, forward. But tell me about the making of Silver, your first album with the Wrens, and kind of what the dynamic was in pulling that together, and the final product. Kind of how you felt about that.
I think we'd always been. We knew we were going to be an original band because we were a cover band for so long, and we were a terrible cover band. So we made a focused decision to start writing songs. And then we got signed by Dutch East India off of a 7-inch that we made, right? And so we had sort of like very classic band, early band stuff. We had a lot of songs and a lot of scrappy, weird, crappy, disconnected songs. So what we did on that Silver one is we put them all together. And, looking back now, we should have had a little bit of better taste. Because we never had a producer, we kind of did all of ourselves. We were super DIY to the point of kind of stupidity, I would say, looking back now as being young, right? But it is what it is. But the record was, the band and all of us were living in the house at that time. And we just made that record to the best of our abilities, right? And it came out weird, but it has a lot of cool, if you like weird angular pop that sounds like XTC Pixies, there's some moments in there you're like, wow, this is kind of cool. And putting 25 songs on it, we got slammed for that by the critics in the beginning, right? It's like, was this band crazy? And but we sort of played it up, right? We were like, well, who cares?
Yeah, well, you had a lot that didn't make it into a two. You had a ton of songs that never got released, right?
Oh yeah, to this day. There's a lot. There's a lot of reels to reels around the houses and DAT tapes with all kind of weird beginnings and scraps and this and that, because we always had really massive amounts of songwriting build up for each record. So for Silver, we had it and we put it on. And then Secaucus, we did the same thing. And then even for the Meadowlands, we had, a good 7 years of just tons of songs that we were kind of writing, but we got better at editing, and we did the same stupid mistake on Silver and Secaucus, where they all like 25, 26 songs. And we said, let's figure it out. Let's get the best songs. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, you've told the story 1,000 times, I'm sure, but the $1 million offer comes, and tell me what goes through your mind as that time happens. Like, what is that like for you? Because not many bands get that, right?
No, and it really was sincere. Like and Alan Meltzer, the guy that did it, he had made himself very, successful off of One Stop. He was sort of like a record distribution person, sold it for a lot of money and had a lot to kind of invest. And without question, he loved the band. He loved it from Secaucus. He loved it. He just wanted to work with us. And, so when we got the offer, it was a mixed kind of bag. One was like being young and stupid and arrogant and thinking you knew better. Two was that there's a bit of a reality that we didn't know where they wanted to take us. They kind of wanted to make us famous, right? They wanted us to give us that shot. And we were just not comfortable with that. And we didn't know what that meant. And did we have to kind of sacrifice musically, all that. And then the other one with the money, like we didn't have any jobs and we didn't. So that was I remember sitting there the day that we said no. I remember it was like a sunny day outside. I was like, did I make the right decision? I don't know. Musically, artistically, I think I did. But now looking back, I was 26 at the time. So, you're almost talking 20 years ago.
Right.
I'm 52, but it's like, I can still remember that day and that feeling. So asking that question is like, even now looking back, I'm like, what would have happened that path? I think if we had known what we wanted better and clearer, it could have been successful as well, right? I guess.
This is the thing is, right? So here's what I find, and I'm sure you've come to this realization through some of these chapters that are painful, from back then, right? But you have your two kids, and would you have had those kids if you had said yes to that? Everything else after would have been different, and and so saying true. And kind of some of the things that seem like the worst thing at the time, right? And of that moment are what make you who you are.
No
right.
question.
And
and I think it's the acceptance and realization of who you are and how comfortable you get with that in life is probably the main goal, because you're exactly right. Because if we had released a record, the Meadowlands, on that label, it would not have been liked by the critics as much as it was. I swear by it, because we were super indie. We knew Ryan for a long time. he was trying to help the underdog. We wouldn't have been the underdog, and we wouldn't have made that record because at that point, nobody wanted it. You know, I mean, you know, Richard and Stephanie were kind of into it, but they were sort of not. And then like we asked our friends at like, you know, Saddle Creek, and they passed. I mean, everyone who heard it was like, no, we don't want it. And so that's why we had our friend do it. And we just thought it was the last one. Right. So, and we were fine with that. We were happy with it being the end. It didn't turn out to be the end, but you're exactly right. So all the paths, even to this day, man, even sitting here having this conversation with you.
It's, I mean, it's this thing, what would have been, right? You know, yeah, exactly. You take these turns, and, you know, I've had forks in the road in my life, and I've, you know, it's like, okay, do you keep chasing this one, or do you go with this other one? And what, you know, you can't regret it. I don't like to live life and regret myself.
Yeah, you exactly. But well, that, you know, I got to tell you, that's that is the message for this record, right? And it was the record going into it. The Wrens, it's just like, you know, because life hands you a lot of weirdness, and that's always been my theme with the Wrens, and even now going forward, or have been. It's just, you can't have any regrets. It's all make believe. It doesn't really matter. Your perceptions, your projections, you can't control them. You have no idea about them. You have to just kind of live forward, right? With like you said, with as little regret. Everyone, you know, has moments of like, oh boy, I wish I would have or could have. But then overall, you're like, nah, that's okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad you're in a good spot with it. So I mean, I won't bring it up again. So
no. It's listen, you figure it's been my life. You know, that's what the other part is kind of interesting that people don't realize, is that, you know, my life. Like it's like it was my dream when I was a kid. You know, I was sort of the guy that kept the band together all the time for my whole life. That's all I ever wanted or did or lived for or focused on and tried to make it. So it's so the fact that I still get to do music today and talk to you is lucky.
Yeah. So let's talk about the new album, right? Observatory. Well, I guess album from last year, Observatory, right? Yeah. So tell me your approach with Observatory. We know it's you know, a combo of, you know, stuff that was left over from what would have been the Wrens' fourth album, and also a lot of original stuff. So did you take, okay, these were my contributions, I'm taking, you know, to what was going to be this album, I'm going to put these into, you know, into this new project?
Yeah, I would say so, because it was sort of kind of, for the most part, what you're hearing, except for very small points, is I played all of it that way. So even for the Wrens record, it was mostly the guitars that I had laid down in that. So I had that chunk kind of there. And I think it was just sort of like waiting after so many years, you know, and COVID and this and that, and sort of like the no regret thing, you know, because time is really flipping by. You know what I mean? You can't turn back the clock. I can't be 32 when I did the Meadowlands. Now I'm 52. And it was like, you know, I wrote really fast. So half of the record really was written in like a month and a half. Like it was old school punk rock. Just do it, get it up, figure it out, see where it goes. And in some ways, I think that adds a lot of kind of vibrancy to the record that you might not kind of, listen, the production, I'm never going to sound like, you know, like Death Cab or have all that quality, because there's no money. We did it for free, right? There was, you know, Sub Pop, it's been great to put it out, but we did it like all bands, just in my house, in my living room, or up in my room. And but yeah, that was sort of like, okay, can I do a half a record and, you know, see where I can go? But I didn't have the intent to make the record, which was really weird. I was making new songs for myself, and because I was still set on it was going to be, you know, a Wrens record. So, but very nicely, you know, Sub Pop worked with me and we put it together, and it kind of seemed like it kind of linked in, and that's what I'm super proud about, because you're talking about songs that were written when I was 37, 38, and then some songs are written, you know, when I'm like, you know, 50, 51.
Different point in your life for sure. And
massively, yeah, exactly. Just think of you, right? Imagine a 12-year gap, you know, and then you're like, you put them together and you're like, boy, okay. But I'm glad it's cohesive.
Yeah, and tell me about Sub Pop, because they were going to originally put out that fourth album. But so
Yeah.
was it an automatic with Sub Pop, or were there other labels that you had
No,
looked at? Like,
no, there was no other labels, right? I have to. No, I'd never shopped it because again, it was only going to be a Wrens record. It wasn't
yeah,
until literally like, I mean, literally it was like I think a day. It literally just changed on a day. That's how dramatic and crazy my story is. That it was it changed in a day. I had them done, and talk with Sub Pop's like, let's give it a shot. And all I can say about them is they are just what a blessing, right?
yeah,
People don't. Kind of. So Tony who runs, with Jonathan and kind of runs Sub Pop, has been great friends to the Wrens and now me and all the guys. Amazing. You forget the contribution that they make to society quietly, because everyone just thinks about Nirvana, but you think about the Shins and Postal Service and Melts. Just keep going on with all the bands or Flight of the Conchord. You know what I mean? Like and then how that helps culture and people. They really, and he means it. Like if you talk to him, have you ever met him?
no, I don't think so.
Yeah,
No.
he's a profoundly wonderful. If you met him, you literally fall in
Yeah,
love. He's just that nice of
yeah,
a guy. And he has two missions. He's like, put out things that I love and keep Sub Pop going. That's it. He's very simple mission. Right.
yeah. Well, that's good. Keeping it simple for sure, and
Right.
doing what he likes at the same
Yeah.
time.
Beach house. I mean, just think about how all this music makes people happy or brings
Oh
into
yeah,
their life or helps them. And, it's crazy. It's crazy.
yeah. So Queens on the album, that was a
Yeah.
song that evolved from Sophie, which is a Wren song. Like, how do you take this song and kind of transform it into what became Queens?
Actually, it was almost the exact same song.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really kind of no mystery except for like maybe mixing part of it and some guitars here and there.
Now
But
we're gonna do a second take. Okay, I sweated over it day and night, and it was.
yeah, no, never. And almost all of that was recorded. That song that you listen to now, all of that was recorded in 2002, 2003. No, 2011, 2010, 2011. Like it was done. As a matter of fact, we actually even played it for our 10th anniversary show at Maxwell's in 2010. Yeah, like let's give it a shot. And then it sounded like hell, but yeah. So it was not much of a conversion. It was really just those I kind of just left the way they are, right? But yeah, it was at least the first dream rocker that I had for the Wrens record.
Yeah, and Leaves was around since 2009 also, so that was an older one.
Yeah, for sure. And that one kind of came together again, like super quickly, over a couple of periods. I think I started that in 2008 and finished that by 2011, and was very, very, to this day, I think it's, arguably for me, my best song. I like the way it kind of, it sort of does like a Wrens thing, but in a different way. And right, I like the lyrics and, yeah. So everyone has different opinions for their songs.
And so tell me about your wife does backup vocals on the album as well. Tell me about that dynamic with bringing her in there, as well as kind of the support.
Oh, it was so fun. Yeah, it was so great. The first part was back in the 2010-11 period. We just kind of started, and she was hearing me in the house and doing recording. I was like, "Come on, get on the mic," and she's like, "No, right?" And I was like, "Please, right? We want to add that dynamic," and she did it, and she sounded great. And and then I kind of would have to double her, and she would double it up, and that was fun. So, I mean, literally, the backup vocals that you hear on Queens, with her singing, she came home from work, still had her bag on. She did it standing in our little kitchen with our, a baby like crawling on the floor. I think she did it in 7 minutes. You know what I mean? Besides that, so it was true. I just laugh at all these bands where they have like studio time and master.
Right.
Yeah. This is just like you in your house right there. It's like imagine the kitchen table, one of these high tables, and she just sang it, knocked it out. And then, she kind of would help, she would help listen to the songs all the time. She was like, "That's good, that's not good." So in a way, she really kind of produced in a long, she would hear me all the time. She's like, "That's good." She would never say the other's bad. She just wouldn't say anything. So then I would know I should. And then with Better Love, same kind of thing. It was like, she was downstairs. I said, "Could you come and sing this?" And she said, "No." I said, "Please." And she said, "Yes." And she was done in 2 minutes. So it was like, Yeah, fun. Punk rock.
She's like, you got 5 minutes. You're like, I'll take 2. Okay, we're good.
That's exactly right. That's
Pretty much.
exactly right. You're like, don't ask me. Yeah, but no, she's loved it. And then Tom, who does the producing, he sat it so nicely in the mix and kind of made it feel good. So yeah, very, very cool.
And tell me about the dynamic of making music with the other members of Wrens besides Charles. Again, like what was that feeling like?
It's always been kind of that same dynamic. Like we always did music together, right?
Yeah.
All of us, because we were always either listening to each other or sending critiques or this and that. But now getting to do it here in this kind of format, it's always the same, right? It's just it's always, I think they're getting better. I almost wish that it's the same old thing. I wish we knew now, I wish we knew then what we know now kind of stuff. But you can't look back, and so you have just to enjoy it for what it is now. And everyone's a little bit more confident or knows who they are, less egos and stuff like that. That young stuff kind of disappears. But yeah, it's a lucky strike, right? For sure.
Yeah. And there might be a companion album to Observatory.
I would love it. I'm just telling you, I haven't even talked to stuff already, but it's like, I think that might be it. I think that's kind of enough. Well, I think I would have a message for like a second one or this and that. And in all fairness, I've already kind of have, I have a lot, like I have like around 15 or 20 songs, but I would say only 3 of them are good right now. That's what kind of happens, it's like so many artists, yeah, I would like to do it, like I said, I'm going to be 53 in December, it's like, so what am I waiting for, right? There's no fame here. There's no money. It's just,
gotta do it for yourself.
Yeah. You do it for yourself and you do it for anyone who cares, right? Like I told my wife, and I mean it sincerely, if 3 people liked the record, I was happy. I've done it too long. You know what I mean? Just think where it's like, whether it was Interscope or whether it was, we're always about to make it, or, our friends were making it and we just never did. And like, I've just been so up and down for so long. I was like, I just kind of don't care. I just want to do it. And it gives you, it goes back. It's weird. It goes back to like being young when you're just like, we're terrible. We don't care. It's like, all right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what happened at South by Southwest?
Oh yeah. That's age. That's catching up. We were always super aggressive on stage and still, and it kind of really did happen with the Metalheads because we did so many shows. It was always super like fun and punk rock and all that stuff. And literally my kneecap, the ligament tore, and then the kneecap went into my thigh, and it was, oh dude, not only was it embarrassing, but it was kind of like a good moment. You're like, wow, well there you go. I didn't pay for that in the ticket. You know what I mean? I didn't expect someone's leg to get snapped out, and of course, I was atomically embarrassed laying there, I was like, is that the first time though? I've fallen off quite a few stages. Let me tell you, man, I've had
but when you were younger, a little bit, right?
Yeah, it looks a little better when you're younger. When you're old, it's just like, oh no, now it's like a senior problem, right? But it was great. It was a really good show. We were playing with this band, Midget Men. They're from Texas, and they inspired me because their set was so good. And then I was like so amped and so excited. I just went up there and it's kind of like, because we played 5 shows in a row, like 1 in the morning, real South by Southwest stuff. And I think it was just that. It was just wear and tear, and then it popped. And
yeah.
Like you said, I have a lot of stories. I have a lot of chapters.
You do. And you're going to be on tour. You're going to be hitting the West Coast actually and playing the Independent. Have you played there before?
No. How is it?
Oh, it's good. It's like a 500 capacity room, I think. So
Okay.
it's a good size. It's got a little balcony up top that's private, but it's a good size room. And in the Divisadero, parking kind of sucks, but but it's a good spot to see a show. I'll tell you.
Oh, that's so great, man. Whatever it is that love to invite you. Please come. Like, would love to kind of meet and hang out and have you meet the guys. And I say it over and over again. But I can't thank you enough, right? It's really cool.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'll see if I can make it. I think it's a kid night, but I can try and pawn them off or something. So, I wanted to show you something just because of something you mentioned at the top of the interview that I think you'll get a kick out of, because you mentioned liking a lot of TV and film show kind of music and that sort of thing. So my son, I took him to a couple of thrift shops to get some art for the new house and whatever.
Yeah.
He wanted something for his room. I will show you what he got for his room.
No way, you're kidding. That is so sweet. Look at
Yes.
that, dude. See, he chose wisely. And
He did.
he doesn't know, right? He doesn't know what they are.
He does. But he's 8, so he hasn't seen the full original, but he watched Blues Brothers 2000, and so he knows the characters, because I grew up on Blues Brothers 2000 myself, you know, to date myself a little bit. But, you know, I went back and, of course, got an appreciation for
I've never seen 2000. And listen, I saw 1980 in the movie theater. Like, it was a big deal, right? You know, I was 10. So I was like, ooh-wee, this is cool.
2000 was good. Of course, I'm biased, but I mean, it's not the original, but it has the 50-car pile up or something too.
Oh, and fun. I'll have to watch it. I gotta watch it with
John Goodman is in it. Like, he's legit. They got, you know, they get the band back together. Aretha is, you know, and they do it, right?
Wow. Oh, definitely. I'll watch it. I'll watch it.
But there's a couple scenes you got to skip if you're going to show the kids.
Yeah.
Right? So watch it first, and then you can bring them in and know where to skip, sort of thing. But it's good for the kids too if you take out those couple of scenes.
Yeah. I will. That's what I was thinking. I was like, maybe I should show them the first one, because oddly enough, I know it's sort of a weird theme, but I was just listening to them in my car. You know, and if you listen to the original soundtrack, right, that song that She Caught the Katy, like, if you listen to it, just the bass and his singing is so good. You know, John Belushi, you're just like, oh my God, these were comedians, you know, and they're doing this kind of, I mean, I know it was all amazing musicians, but I like the theme. I like our conversation theme. And I love that your kid got it. That's so cute.
Oh, for sure. I was like, are you sure you want? Oh, he's like, he wouldn't say no. So I was like, okay, we'll do it. You could have it. So you got that dispatch.
So sweet. So sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for showing me. And thanks for again for the time and for always, you know, supporting the music. I really appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Well, yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day, Kevin, and I hope the tour goes well coming up. Have a great rest of the summer with your kids too. Enjoy that time while you can. Okay?
You too. Enjoy. Talk to you soon.
I will. Thanks. That was the interview with Kevin from Aeon Station here on Concert Pipeline, and that takes us to the final segment on the program, the music news. All right, got a couple of stories to wind out the program today, so let's get into it. First off is Ozzy Osbourne. He is still kicking and making music, and he's announced that he's going to make his debut at this year's San Diego Comic-Con on Friday, July 22nd, excuse me, right around the corner. Him and Todd McFarlane will reveal artwork for the limited edition special McFarlane designed comic book. That's right, Todd McFarlane is making a comic book. It's available as part of the special edition album packages, along with a signing at the Stern Pinball and Rebellion Republic booth. There's going to be more details announced soon, but they've also revealed an alternate cover for the limited edition cover variant of the new album, Patient Number 9, out September 9th. So McFarlane also directed the video for the title track, which features Jeff Beck. So if you want to see Ozzy Osbourne, better get down to San Diego and hit Comic-Con. I have a friend that is going to Comic-Con, but probably won't make it to Ozzy with the other stuff that he's got planned. So we'll see what happens there. All right. This is an interesting one. Matt Skiba doesn't know if he's still a member of Blink-182. The Alkaline Trio vocalist joined the band in 2015 as a replacement for guitarist Tom DeLonge, who left to change the world for his kids, is what he says. But really, we know that it's to go chase UFOs, right? He didn't make Blink-182 a priority, and Blink-182 wanted to continue on and play music, play shows, and make music. So they went on without him and pulled in Matt, which was a good lineup. I got a chance to see him live with Matt at least once, and was backstage with Mark and Matt at one point, thanks to my good buddy who's friends with Mark Hoppus. So They've recorded 2 albums together, 2016's California and 2019's Nine, and they've toured extensively. They haven't been touring for a while. Mark had cancer, which he's in remission, and he's doing a lot better, which is great. And Travis Barker has been having some rough periods recently as well. But one fan asked if Skiba was still a member of the pop punk legends, since there's no Blink content on his Instagram and the Blink guys don't post pictures with Matt. And he said, "Your guess is as good as mine. Regardless, I am very proud and thankful for my time with Blink 182. We shall see." So no news there, but Mark has been posting more pictures, or more reflective pictures, with Tom DeLonge recently. So maybe there's a chance the original lineup will get back together, play some shows, which will probably sell pretty well, because people want to see Tom DeLonge as part of Blink-182, as long as he's committed, right? So we shall see. All right, Drake fans are outraged at the cost of tickets for his Young Money reunion show. Fans have taken to social media to complain about the ticket prices for Drake's recently announced Young Money reunion show. Announced earlier this week, Drake is set to put on a series of shows in Toronto ahead of the worldwide expansion of his OVO Fest, alongside an all-Canadian North Star show and a headline gig by Chris Brown and Lil Baby. Drake is also putting on a Young Money reunion with Nicki Minaj and Young Money entertainment boss Lil Wayne, who's set to appear. However, after tickets went on sale on Friday, fans took to Twitter to complain about the sky-high prices. Resale and platinum tickets for the show at the Budweiser stage on August 1st are available from Ticketmaster for $573, with the most expensive seat currently costing $1,480. And one fan wrote, "If Ticketmaster really think they could charge me $750 for OVO Fest lawn tickets, they best be performing on my lawn." This is the sucky thing about concerts and the challenges, and especially a unique show like this, where it's a real one-off. You're not going to get a lot of it. It's not a huge tour, so it's not hitting every different area. They can charge what they want. It's not respectful to fans in any sense, for sure. But if people are going to pay it, they're going to pay it. And you have two choices. One, you pay the astronomical fees plus Ticketmaster charges, because they're going to get you as well, or don't go. So it's up to the artist to kind of help mitigate some of that pain and really look out for their fans in certain ways. There's ways to make the tickets available to fans so that scalpers don't get them. Also, there are ways to make that happen. It's a lot more tedious and rare to see that actually happen, but according to Ticketmaster, these so-called platinum tickets are tickets that they are dynamically priced up and down based on demand, and are made available by artists and event organizers. And earlier this week, by the way, Drake's team was forced to deny reports that the rapper was recently arrested in Sweden after Free Drake sign started trending online. So, things maybe not the best for Drake right now, but let's not charge your fans crazy amounts. Okay, let's just all make it possible to go to shows. All right, let's end with a good news story, shall we? A woman who gave birth at a Metallica gig honors James Hetfield with the baby's middle name. This happened in Brazil. And so a Brazilian tattoo artist named Joyce went into labor during the Metal Icons concert at the Estadio Couto Pereira Stadium this May. This woman was 39 weeks pregnant, so maybe shouldn't have gone to a Metallica show, with the chance that the baby might be coming. She started having contractions shortly after Metallica took the stage. Her water then broke on the way to the venue's outpatient clinic, and there wasn't enough time to make it to the hospital maternity ward. Her son Juan was born at 11:15 p.m. To the sound of Enter Sandman. I like it. Metallica subsequently shared this news on their Instagram stories feed, with frontman James Hetfield also calling the new mother and her husband Jamie to congratulate them. And so the mother has further details with an interview with The Guardian and revealed that they've given Luan a Metallica-inspired middle name, James. We'd already chosen the name Luan for the baby, but people started to ask why not something related to Metallica, she explained. We felt such a connection with James on the phone that we decided to make Luan's second name James. It felt just right. Now he won't be able to listen to any music but metal. And he's a baby headbanger. His grandfather would have been proud. She said that they couldn't believe it when Hetfield called, describing the musician as so kind. He asked if I was okay, if the baby was healthy. We told him the whole story. So very nice work from James Hetfield, and cool story for your kid forever, that they were, came into this world to enter Sandman, right? So that is our show for today. We have good shows coming up as well. The next one, I believe, will be Steve's nostalgia episode, which includes an interview with Everclear, some footage from Smash Mouth's show down in where the fuck did I see them? No, it wasn't Bakersfield. It was Turlock. Sorry, and also Motion City soundtrack concert footage as well from their 17th anniversary Commit This to Memory tour. I have other interviews lined up on the other side of that, but that is our show. So thank you for tuning in. Remember, like, subscribe, share the program, all the fun stuff. And for all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. We'll catch you next time.